What's going on, guys? Matty here, and we're back with another video. In today's video, we're talking about some squat variations you can do if you're dealing with low back pain. Now, the truth is that most lifters at some point in their training career will experience low back pain. And usually it's from dysfunctional movement patterns over time, but a lot of it is also caused by certain lifestyle factors. Now, if you're someone who got injured, you might be able to recall that exact time, the exact place, the exact rep where it happened. So maybe you were going for a deadlift PR, maybe you were going for a squat PR, maybe you were just doing high volume work and your body fatigued and you felt that click or crack or something didn't feel right, and that next night you were in pain and you were aching and that caused your injury. That's very possible. It could be that you live a very sedentary lifestyle or your job requires you to sit like this at a desk in a chair for 8 hours a day and you don't move around much. You might have slept wrong, then you went into the gym, you didn't warm up properly, you got under the bar, and that was enough to cause the injury or pain. It happens, it sucks, I've been through it, I've documented it on this channel, and that's why I'm making this video, because I want to help some people out who might be dealing with this now. And as the great Alberto Nunez once said, one rep won't make you, but it can break you. I want to first state that this video is not intended to give you medical advice, so if you're dealing with pain, make sure to go see a medical professional. Even if you've dealt with the exact same low back pain I have, you had the same symptoms, you had the same disc herniations, whatever it was, that does not mean that the exercises and movements that I do are going to be suitable for you. So you want to make sure what your pain pattern is, and that's something that you'll have to figure out. And then you want to make sure to correct that specifically. So we don't all deal with the same problems. We're not all capable of doing the same movements, even if we've had the same injury. So keep that in mind. See a medical professional if the pain is severe. But let's get into this video and talk about a few squat variations that you can do if you're dealing with some low back pain. First up, we have the Landmine Squat. So you want to make sure to interlock your fingers instead of using a staggered grip, because that can lead to your shoulders and hips being uneven. And you want to make sure the bar is up against your chest instead of away from your body so you can maintain an upright torso. And I would highly recommend performing this movement without any load first so you can determine your optimal stance and foot position, because as you descend into that squat, the bar is naturally going to force you back, and you want to make sure your setup and technique is right before you start to add weight. If you plan on using this exercise with heavier loads, I would suggest not starting up from the ground, but instead using a plyo box to prop up the weight like seen in this video. Another variation you could try is the Landmine Sumo Squat. So again, you want to interlock your fingers as we did on the other squat and keep your elbows right inside your knees and make sure that your elbows are locked out. The bar should be placed in between your legs, and as you descend, you want to drive your knees out and maintain that upright posture. And then as you come back up, squeeze your glutes at lockout. Next up, we have the Bulgarian split squat. Now, unilateral leg training is a great option if you want to add more training volume without having to add more load. Now, the most important thing is determining how far you need to stand away from the bench, which will take some trial and error, but essentially you want to make sure that most of that weight is on your front leg, and if you're set up properly, this will destroy your quads. So you shouldn't feel any pain or tightness in your knees or hip flexors, glutes, or lower back. So don't be afraid to play around with your foot distance and your torso angle. Right here I'm showing something very exaggerated as I'm falling over, where you can see my right foot is very far away from that bench, and this is actually causing a little bit of discomfort on my left hip flexor and my lower back. So you'll see what happens when you move a little bit closer and keep your torso angle a little bit more upright. This is a much more natural position for me. It's a lot more comfortable, and I can really feel my right leg and my quad working. And here's another alternative, which is the assisted Bulgarian split squat. So you're holding onto something so you don't have to worry about the balance component of the lift, which is oftentimes the most difficult part, and this will allow you to load it a little bit heavier. The last thing I want to mention with this movement is the height of your rear foot. So a lot of people would use the edge of a bench, but a bench has a fixed height, so it might not be the right height for you, and this could cause discomfort on your lower back. So I've actually found that using the Smith machine with a pad allows you to set the bar at an appropriate height, and the pad just acts as a cushion for the top of your foot, because if you're resting your foot on the edge of a bench, it could get annoying after a few sets as the bench is digging into the top of your foot. So this feels much more natural to have the round pad curve around your foot, so definitely give this a shot. And if you want to make the Bulgarian split squat even more challenging, you can elevate your front foot to increase the range of motion. So you could put an aerobic stepper under it or a small box. Next up, we have the Goblet Squat, and I'm sure you've all seen this one before, but this is a great exercise to teach you how to squat between your legs. So to start out, you just want to grab a dumbbell or kettlebells and hold it up close against your chest. You also want to find a stance that allows you to maintain a flat back and gives you enough range of motion to perform a full squat to depth. And I found that a slight foot flare is comfortable and helps achieve proper depth while maintaining an upright posture. So as you squat down, you want to push your knees out so that they track over your feet, and you want to think about your elbows touching the insides of your knees when you reach that bottom position. So you could do these with a continuous pulsing motion and not lock out at the top, which will keep constant tension on your quads, or you could take a breath at the top, get tight, descend and pause in the hole, and then explode up through your heels. So again, you could perform this with either a dumbbell, one kettlebell, or like you see here with 2 kettlebells. Just find something that's comfortable for you and make sure to stay tight throughout the entire range of motion. And this is one more variation I wanted to share with you guys that you don't see too often, and it's a cable goblet squat. So you're performing it the same way you would the regular dumbbell or kettlebell goblet squat, but what you want to do is make sure that you're standing very close to that cable stack. Otherwise, if the weight gets out too far in front of you, it's going to put a lot of stress on your lower back. So all you're doing is keeping those elbows tucked in, the handle up against your chest, descending into the squat and exploding up through the heels. Next up, we have the Spanish squat, which is very lower back friendly and allows you to target the quads, and it's great for people who struggle to squat without falling forward. So to do this, you want to take a medium to a heavy, thick resistance band and secure it around the rack, and then step inside of the band so it's resting beneath the back of your knees. I try to keep my shins as vertical as possible in the bottom position, and as I come back up, I lean slightly back into the band. Now you could do this with or without weight, but I would say get a feel for it because it's a bit awkward at first, and I would recommend really slowing down the eccentric or negative portion of the lift to maintain control. And this is something that you could program in at the end of your workout as a finisher. Next up, we have the Zercher Squat, which is great for increasing upper back, leg, and core strength, and you can do whatever you want with your hands, but the bar is going to be placed on the inside crease of your bent elbows, which forces you to maintain an upright and rigid torso. And this movement is awesome if you have any issues with squat mobility or any lower back limitations. This is also a perfect accessory lift if you experience difficulty with keeping your thoracic spine extended in the squat. And you will probably realize that as you start to increase the weight, it's not going to be very comfortable having the bar sit on your arms. So what you could do is go ahead and grab a pair of knee sleeves or elbow sleeves so the bar has a place to rest, as you don't want the pain from the bar on your arms being the limiting factor. Now, one of the major benefits of the Zurcher Squat is the front-loaded position, as it can decrease stress placed on the lumbar spine, as well as minimize the amount of shoulder and wrist mobility needed when you compare it to something like a back squat or the front rack position of a front squat. So if you have poor mobility with those movements, this is another great alternative. Last up, we have the belt squat. Now, you may have seen a pit shark squat or a belt squat machine in your gym, but not every gym has those, and most of the gyms I've been to don't have them. So a belt squat is a great alternative, and this can be performed using a dip belt and then either using plyo boxes or an assisted pull-up and dip machine as I'm using here. So by hanging the weight from a belt positioned around your hips with the weight hanging down between your legs, we significantly decrease the low back's contribution to the squat, and then we put all of the load onto our legs. So this movement is also great for people who have a healthy back, but who might experience upper body limitations in the squat, such as tight shoulders or elbow and wrist pain. And also the belt squat will allow you to load the lower body without loading the spine or using the upper body, and it's perfect for teaching proper vertical upright positioning. So one of the limitations you might face when using an assisted pull-up machine like I'm using here is it might not be the right stance width for you, and that is when plyo boxes or something to prop you up might be more appropriate, but this actually worked out pretty well for me. So what you could do is you can hold on to the machine like you see me doing on some of these reps if you really want to focus on your legs and not worry about balancing, which I would recommend if you're going heavier, or you could simply just use a lighter load and keep your hands in front of your body. And one of the best parts about this movement is that if you begin to fatigue, you can use your arms to help lift yourself back up. Whereas if you were fatiguing in a squat with a free weight, you can increase the risk of injury and possibly run into some more serious problems. So healthy back or not, I would definitely recommend trying this exercise out. And that's the video. So I hope that this video helped you guys out. Remember that the exercises I showed in this video are not only to be done if you're experiencing low back pain. They can actually be a great substitute and a great way to incorporate accessory work without having to load the spine. So even if you're not dealing with an injury, a belt squat might be a great option for you. It might be a good way to program in some accessory lifts without having to squat too frequently. So don't be afraid to try out some of these movements, whether or not you've had back pain or you're dealing with back pain. Even if you're completely healthy, I recommend trying some of these out, and it might be a way to just try some new stuff out in your program. But that is going to conclude this video. Another note is that if you're dealing with low back pain, there are other exercises that you should probably stay away from. So front-loaded hip hinge movements. This was just meant to be exercise variations that you can use for this squat. So if you'd like to see more videos on how to train your full body with low back pain, different ways that you can incorporate exercises, let me know. I'd be more than happy to record that for you guys. Drop a comment down below, like the video if you did enjoy it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will catch you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.